game that's divided the community to a certain respect. It's not so much people being annoyed about this game coming out, more the fact that people are now feeling that Valve are basically going to abandon the original Left 4 Dead. From what I've heard, this isn't going to be the case. Valve are actually planning, although it's not anything set in stone yet, to package the original Left 4 Dead with Left 4 Dead 2 itself. Whether that means that they're actually going to keep updating Left 4 Dead 1 remains to be seen. Basically, for Left 4 Dead 2, I'm sure everyone now is aware of the fact that it's now introducing melee weapons. You've basically got axes, a baseball bat, frying pan, and what seems to be a staple of zombie games now in the shape of a chainsaw. Setting wise, Left 4 Dead's now taking place in New Orleans. 4 new characters, which are Nick, Ellis, Rochelle and Coach, and the game's being played over 5 campaigns as opposed to the 4. In addition to melee weapons, new characters and a new setting, we've been blessed, if that's the way you want to put it, with new infected. There's only one that's been revealed so far, which has been labelled the Charger. This bad boy is basically designed to change the way people play from the original game. Basically, the Charger itself will take a run up at you, sort of like a ball. If it knocks you down, it will leave you open to attack from other infected, and it can also grab you and basically just drill you into the ground repeatedly. He's basically said to be damage absorption wise along the same sort of lines as a tank, but he's a lot less manoeuvrable, and he's basically been introduced to sort of force players to be more mobile with the way they approach each level, instead of obviously with the original where people, not everybody I know, but you'd get people basically sitting in the same spot just taking on the wave after wave of enemies. The Charger being in there, it forces you to keep active, and obviously dependent on where these charges drop in, you'll have to obviously be a lot more alert as to what's going on around you. Unlike the original campaigns, is not just restricted to being night time with following basically where the lights are. Daytime campaigns are actually going to be in the game itself, and it's not just the case of giving you sort of a new perspective and new look to the game itself. Infected will actually work in certain cases in a slightly different way. A perfect example being that oh so lovely witch from the first game. Now, as people who have played the game will know, she's a pain in the arse enough as it is, but basically sticking her in daylight, you've got a completely whole new level of annoyance. While she was fairly passive in the first one, unless obviously the AI director stuck her in a place that you had to go through, the fact that she basically stayed there kneeling and crying, you could to a degree avoid her. With her being in daylight, instead of basically staying in a stationary position, she'll actually walk around. All you need to do is basically think about sticking that into a group of infected and imagine the sort of carnage that then can come up. Crescendo events have now been reworked as well. Instead of, in all cases from the first one, being a case of hitting a switch or doing whatever and then basically sitting it out, battling wave upon wave of the infected, this time around, in order to again keep you more active, and it'll basically, not with everyone, but it'll set up the need to maybe hit a second switch to stop the infected coming. Also, in one case, there's no crescendo whatsoever. Instead, you're basically faced with the really lovely prospect of being in a car park full of cars, every single car alarmed, and you can imagine what one stray bullet would land out doing. Also, the whole sitting it out at the end of each campaign waiting for a pickup, whether it be helicopter, APC or whatever, isn't always going to be the case. With the parish campaign, instead of waiting for something to happen, you basically have to battle your way over a long highway bridge, complete with sections that haven't got safety barriers. So all you really need is that one tank to come along and get a little bit physical, and you're going for a long drop. The AI director now plays an even bigger part in the way that the game basically plays out. Instead of just adjusting where the infected will appear each time you play through, dependent on how well you're doing, it can also adjust the actual route that you'll have to take through the game itself. Example that was given, there's when you go through New Orleans itself, with the cemeteries being above ground, the cemetery might be like crumbled in certain places, basically forcing you to take a longer route round, whereas if you're doing particularly bad at it at that point, it may be just literally a case of walking straight through in one straight line. Final new touch is the introduction of special items. They're not basically long lasting. Example of this basically being incendiary rounds, which basically one hit will set your infected on fire. One exception to that though, they've introduced hazmat zombies. Now these aren't special infected, basically they're just regular infected wearing hazmat suits that are completely invulnerable to flame attacks. Info to look out for: Chet, the guy behind the game itself, basically said something that's confusing IGN as well as myself. Basically saying that the city of Savannah's being touted as a campaign where the infection hasn't hit yet. Now, whether that means that you'll basically be playing it as if it's a real-time thing with the infection hitting as you start going through, or whether it's going to be a completely different setup, remains to be seen. There's also basically been a tease of a new game mode that's being kept completely quiet, and of course as time goes on you'll obviously hear more about the other special infected that are going to be in the game, and obviously other weapons. Release date at the moment set for November 17th.